Hey guys, Starcraft here, and now I said I'd be doing a actual review of either Major X or Superman Earth 1 Book 2. By the way, I don't think that's the worst comic ever released like some people do. Instead, I figured I'd do a follow-up to my video from yesterday, where I basically went off on everyone getting all knee-jerking and everything, and wanted to explain a bit more about the same thing. Some of you may always be wondering, hey Robert, how come you're not always talking about the bad stuff? Or, hey, how come you're always willing to give these people who are clearly assholes a shot? Or things like that. Well, it's because for a long time I was more of a bitter reactionary to a lot of stuff. I really was. Like a bunch of the people, like those in the comic book podcasts. Some of which are more reactionary for other reasons than just what's in the books these days, and I've lost track of so many of them. However, there was one person out of all the podcasts that said something that was very profound to the point where it influenced some of his fellow podcasters, at least at that point, and basically something that I've been holding on to. I may have reworked a little bit of how he said it, but it's part of what's kept me going. Find your comic book joy. This was said something by a guy named Shagg Matthews, best known for the Fire and Water podcast, if any of you heard those out. Remember hearing him telling it to his friend and fellow comic book podcaster Michael Bailey about this years ago. I mean, years ago. And it was something that helped Michael through his tough time back then. And for me, it's been doing the same thing for me now, where I've always just decided, find the books you enjoy. Buy the books, look back, buy back issues, focus on what you have, find your comic book joy in the worst times. Now I've extrapolated this a bit. I've actually taken this as being both find it in the old stuff or find it with whatever current books you like and stick with it. Don't buy any of the craps, even if it's tie-ins. I mean, in my case, sometimes I might, but I'll just buy this one of the tie-ins. But for the most part, don't buy the crap. Even if you can afford it, don't bother if you're not interested and it doesn't catch your interest. And then I go a little bit further than that. If it's a book you've been going for a long time, like with Superman, for me, it's try and find that which and what brings you joy in the book. And for me, even with Bendis, he still has not ruined Superman 100%. Superman still feels like Superman despite everything around him going to crap. And that's the only thing that's keeping me going with that book. And even with Tom King, his handling of Bane, I still find still a lot better than the worst that Bane has been in the past. Some of you may argue that. That's my opinion, and that's been the thing keeping me going. Plus a little bit of the Bat and Cat relationship to a degree. But of course, I'm not of the opinion that Batman's been cucked. I still don't believe that. But yeah, that's kind of what's gotten me through, and even throughout all of this. You add in that, along with my separating the artist from the artist, put those together, and that's why I am the way I am. That's why I choose to always look on the bright side of things, and why I'm so wanting to avoid the negativity. Because I see what it does. I've seen what it can do when it consumes people. Lin Carr from Atop the Forest Wall had made a plot point in his storylines about what happened if you don't catch yourself and realize you're reviewing just the shit. And it makes you start to feel like, I should control everything. Now I think he's gone too far the other way, where he's now thinking, praise everything that matches your point of view and all that. But at the same time, though, he did have a bit of a point. And of course he did in a storyline where he had a spaceship that was ready to threaten Marvel unless they changed everything based on what they wanted. But really, if there was anyone out there who had that type of technology, that kind of power, magic, technology, whatever, in the Comicsgate and all that stuff, there are some out there, I have a feeling, that would do the same thing because they feel that disenfranchised or disheartened. And that's what happens when you reach this point. And that's basically what I've done. Even if it means having to drop a number of books, because I feel like I'm not liking where it is going, I've done that. For a while, I would always see things through right to the end, even with changes. But around the time of New 52, I dropped a whole lot of books. Monetary reasons, but also because I lost my interest. Some of them I regret in the long run, others I don't. And that's basically what I've always done. Even with all these Indiegogo books. For me, if I backed them, I've never had one that is completely just, I regretted it. Flying Sparks might be a bit, on that, mostly because the artwork's not that great, but it's still a lot better than other books I've read. But even then, at the worst, I still have no regrets for anything I've bought in. Anything. I've shown you my collection. I've still got a whole lot more since then. I have not regretted one thing. Because I always find something, anything, to enjoy about it. Even that Raven miniseries I did a couple months back. I do not like the artwork at all, but I still found enjoyment in the story. That's how I am with so much of it. I have found my joy, and it's kept me content. Yes, there's always going to be something that's going to piss me off royally, and I'll go off on it. But for the most part, I will still never regret buying it. Because I still found something to like about it, be it the artwork or some part of the story or something. Because that's what helps. And I feel that's what a lot of other people should be doing. As opposed to wanting to, I'm not saying be in, just put your head in the ground and let everything burn around you. Oh, hell no. But at the same time, if you just start focusing on the stuff that you want to see, voting with your wallet, and start doing it, others will start, and the creators will start to see it. Because, let's be honest, some of the horrible stuff at Marvel, that was because they chose to let things go down the shitter, let sales drop, just so they can push their message out, their agenda out. And let's be honest, that bit them in the butt in some ways. It took a while, and they would not admit it, but we really, any of us expecting them to be honest. But look at where they are now. They're starting to get better. It's not perfect, but it's better than it was near the end of Alonso's tenure. And again, with DC, that's why I don't get so blinded by hatred. Because I do acknowledge there are good things out there, because that's what I'm buying, is the good stuff. It might not be good in everyone's eyes. It's all a matter of subjection and opinion. But that's what I've done. And that's helped me out. It's helped out others who've heard this phrase before. And I think any of you guys that hear it should, follow through on that. Trust me, it's a whole lot better than just dwelling on the shit and trying to find everything. Look, I always say this. Heroes in Crisis, overall, it was weak. Would I say it's the worst event I've ever read? No. I definitely would not say that. I still think, overall, Secret Empire is still a worse event by comparison to Heroes in Crisis in some regards. And in the end, while he's still alive, there's still a good chance of somehow redeeming it. It's not like it's just made him a villain and killed him off, and now we have to deal with everything. Now there's a good chance of redemption. What else? At the very least, there's that. Again, I'm finding the bright side. I'm looking at the good points, as opposed to just hyper-focusing on the negative. And really, what does that help? It doesn't help anyone. You just do that, you just start building up the negativity until it just consumes you, until that's all you see. Until you reach a point where the only way you'll ever accept DC or Marvel is if they do a drastic, visible 180 and acknowledge all their faults, fire everyone you don't want, all those very extreme criteria you want them to meet before you even give them a shot. And what's that going to do? Because the way I see it, it's almost never going to reach that drastic. We looked out with Rebirth, but even Rebirth wasn't perfect. Let's be honest on that. It wasn't exactly perfect. And they still had to wrap up a bunch of stuff to get to that point. We didn't even realize what Rebirth was going to be until it happened. But if we look back what led up the Rebirth, there was a bit of hints to it. So, yeah. And then you just have, even when we got Rebirth, again, was it perfect? Not really. But not everything's going to happen the same way twice. And I just think from this point, with Jeff Johns not involved, the head person now, with all the others involved, we got to take what we can get and like. And if we see someone that's showing some slight improvements, I know some of you might out there be like, oh no, we shouldn't give him faint praise for this little thing. We should expect the drastic changes. Guys, some of these people are not going to just accept it as like that. They're not going to be saying like, oh, we should give them exactly what they want. Not without Jeff Johns around. All right? Right now, with standard and all that stuff, you need to prove it to them. That's what you want. That means if they're starting to show a little bit of inkling of improvement, then show you're interested. Don't be all like, oh, we don't believe you. Oh, we think you're doing something. That reminds me of something else that I went off about yesterday. This whole notion, and I know there's plenty out there who think this, that seem to think that like what Tom King did with Alfred was done directly to spite the fans. Guys, I think Tom King, while he probably does consider some of the fan reactions, he probably thinks like the story matters most. Yes, people might react to it, but he's probably also deep down hoping that those that do get some enjoyment, those who are buying the books, will think, oh, yeah, let's see, and they probably think like, what's going on here? And continue forward. Yes, there might be some outrage, but the way he wrote it tells me that he was probably hoping that people would actually think there's something else going on here, as opposed to just taking it at face value. And the fact is, even when he's gotten death threats before, oh, he's gotten death threats. Why hasn't he learned to change his ways? Probably because of the simple fact that it's ridiculous that comic book creators getting death threats over a comic story. And the other thing is, unlike other cases where someone's done something in the moment of a story and people get outraged and death threats and they reverse it or whatever. That's usually because of the case of they were doing it in the short term and didn't have a long-term plan. So they probably saw like, we'll kill him off and keep him dead. In the case of Tom King, when he did the wedding and all that stuff, he had a long-term plan. He knew where he was going. He knew everyone was assuming the way off, words, things are going way off. But he knew like, no, I know where it's going. They're way off and they're going to be surprised when they see the end. That's my guess. I'm pretty sure that is what's going through people like his mind. And that's the thing is, not everyone is like a Cine Grace or any of those other guys who put Doug Ernst or Professor Geek into their stories as targets, or those like Mark Russell who basically made obvious allegories to Comicsgate, things like that. Yeah, let's be honest. Those ones were obvious and blatant. And I understand that. Those ones you can complain about. But the other ones, like what Tom King did with Alfred and all that stuff, it's not done to spite you. Damian did not represent the fans. At least I don't think he did. It looked like Damian just represented, he was being Damian. He was doing what Damian would do. And basically, and also when you're focused on Thomas, which is focused on family, who better than to go in and try and deal with his own grandfather than Damian? Am I right? Think about it for a second. And again, when you really think of it this way, you can see how Tom got there. If you actually drop your emotions and think about it, you would actually probably start to realize there might be more of a point than just trying to enrage the fans. You try to think of it from a writing point of view, you might not agree with it. It might not be where you want to go, but you might start to understand where Tom King was going with it. And again, just some people just want to tell the story they want to tell. And that's what Tom's been given a chance of doing. That's what he's been doing. Might have changed from the very early issue, probably, but this seems to be the general idea of what he wanted. And he knows where he's going. We might not like it in the end, I openly admit that. But he has a plan, and it's probably why he's staying the course. Because, again, when people were outraged about Batman number 50 with the wedding the way it went. Yeah, most people were upset because of what the marketing did. But Tom King said it was going to happen. You really think he's going to spoil the ending right in Twitter? Don't think so. And also, just the very fact that people were just so hyped up about it. But in the end, it was just part of the larger story. And at the end, we also found it was part of Bane's master plan. That's what the important part was of the story. But you have people who kept saying death threats because they thought, oh, you played with us. Oh, they're never getting married our way. You just lied to us. When King deep down thought, I know where I'm going with this. I'm still in the works with some details, but I know what I'm doing. They are way off. And like I said earlier, that's probably what was going through his mind. And yeah, I mean, look at stuff like Scott Snyder. he's been doing great stuff, and he has a long-term plan that's going to be wrapping up with the Justice League in a little while. Things like that. They have plans. They're being a chance to tell them. Does anyone not remember long-term storylines? How people would actually have these things set and planned out for the next year, whatever, and then they usually, the editors and all stuff would plan it out and keep going. People are so used to the short-term storyline telling these days. I think a lot of people have forgotten that, where people have plans, or maybe someone like Scott Lobdell, who would just introduce elements and then wing it. But you have people like Chris Claremont, who usually did have a good long-term, like, series of short-term goals, or maybe a long-term plan. Who knows? So think back to those times, guys. Not just the good times, but think back to how other writers were, and think maybe some writers are doing that. All right? Look, this is just what goes through my mind regularly. I just wanted to share it with you all and let you know that that's why I am. I'm not a newbie fan. I am not an apologist. That's just how I am, and that's why I stand by with my defenses on so many things. Because I see good in some of it. And I'm not blinded by the hatred like many are. Hell, I'll give you one example before I sign off. After I was one of those like Nerda and some others who did not like Vampirella #1. Because I didn't like how it was basically doing the polar opposite, jabbing at PC culture politics. And then when I started reading issue #2, I thought, oh, it's the same thing. Oh, it's just as bad. But then I reread through it again, and I realized, while I still am finding some infuriating stuff, it was a lot better, more action, some more ideas, like the demon hunting nuns with big machine guns felt very Vampirella, things like that. I then started to find the good, and I realized, okay, it's actually improving. I wish this was the first issue instead of the other one, but you needed the other one to get to this point, things like that. But again, it still was an improvement, and I enjoyed it. So that's just an example right there of me admitting my own fault of a knee-jerk reaction and just realizing find the good in it. And I did. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say. For those of you who do watch this, since I doubt this is going to be seen by that many, I don't get the best viewings, and I'm pretty sure this is going to be too positive for anyone to watch. But those of you that do, share it around. Let them know that there's better ways than just stewing in your anger. And just find your comic book joy. And wrong guy. Shagg Matthews. Sorry. I'm just so used to Scott. Shagg, if you ever see this, because I'll be tagging you into the thread, thank you so much, man. I really mean it. You are one of the few good guys still out there in the comic podcast community that I still say is a good guy, and one of the guys I would still listen to, who I still check in on Water podcasts on occasion, and yeah, you've done so much in the long run out of everyone else. Thank you so much, man. Keep up the great work, and yeah. Now, that's all I have. I will hopefully do a Major X or Superman Year 1 Book 2. And good Lord, I'm coming up on 20 minutes. Ugh. So yeah, that's all I gotta say. Catch you guys tomorrow.